Sister-in-law tried to humiliate me at my baby shower by saying that I was probably trying to baby trap her brother and marry my way into a rich family, but karma hit back hard when her dad told her that she could pay for her own wedding now since she was so against gold diggers. I had my baby shower a couple of days ago. It was a bit of an intimate affair with just my fiancé, our families, and a few close friends. Marcus, my fiancé, and I, both 23, have been together for the past 2 years. 6 months ago, we started living together because I found out that I was pregnant. I was a bit skeptical because we're both really young. We haven't been together for that long and haven't even lived together, and we have so much to do in our lives. Our families also didn't know each other well, so there were a lot of things that we were worried about. But at the same time, I really wanted this baby, and he did too. And so we decided that we could work it all out eventually. But since both of us wanted this baby and we wanted to stay together as well, we would go ahead with the pregnancy. My family and I were fine with it, but his mom and sister were not cool with it at all. Tori, his sister, 27 female, and Ellie, his mom, had a very drastic change in attitude towards me after Marcus told them that I was pregnant. We were keeping the baby and I was moving in with him, and we were going to get married after the baby was born. Before this announcement they had always been nice to me, but after that they became very cold and distant. They had a talk with Marcus as well, and even though they had told him not to talk about it to me, he did tell me everything that they had said. Apparently, there were a bunch of reasons as to why they did not think this was a good idea. First off, Tori was getting married at the end of this year to her longtime boyfriend, and so she did not want anybody stealing her thunder. And secondly, they thought that I was keeping the baby only because I wanted to marry my way into their family since I had seen how well off they were. The first reason was quite petty, but the second reason was just plain insulting. I do agree that Marcus's family is quite financially comfortable. His dad owns a law firm and his mom runs a restaurant, so money is not a problem for them. Both my parents work in publishing in the same company, and while we are not rich, we are not exactly living in poverty either. So this argument that I was just with him for the money and I was probably trying to baby trap him was really disgusting. But I'm lucky that Marcus did not believe any of that. In fact, he even told me all about it, so that I could keep my distance from Tori and Ellie. We did not cut them off entirely because we did not want any drama. Since his father, Ben, has specifically asked all of them not to stir anything up because they had a lot of family events in the next 2 years, including Tori's and Marcus's weddings, and he didn't want any drama at any of these events. So out of respect for him, since he had defended me, Marcus and I decided to be civil to Tori and Ellie and not cut them off entirely. They also had the same kind of attitude towards us, so everything was respectable for a while. And because Ben wanted us to keep up appearances, he advised us to get engaged a couple of months ago because I had started showing already. We could get married whenever we wanted to, but at least we should be engaged. That's what he believed. Marcus and I didn't have a problem with that, so we got engaged and had a small party afterward. But after our engagement, Tori and Ellie got even more upset with us. And all through the party, they just kept making comments saying this was dangerously close to our wedding. I didn't know what they were so worried about because we had already made it very clear that we were not getting married until the baby was born, and even then, we were obviously going to need a couple of months to plan everything. So we were probably not even getting married until a year after Tori's wedding. Things came to a head at my baby shower when, unprompted, Tori came up to me and asked to see my engagement ring all of a sudden, and then when I showed it to her, she loudly remarked about how big the diamond was and how expensive it must have been. Then she went on to make a very cheap joke about how even if her brother doesn't decide to get married to me, my baby and I can live off the ring itself. And then she told me to keep it safe just in case my plan of baby trapping her brother falls flat for some reason. There were very few people at the party anyway, and we were all in close quarters, so everyone heard her. She was saying it all in a joking tone, but I knew that she was not kidding, and only Ellie laughed. I was dumbstruck, and Marcus started to pick a fight with her. But he didn't need to because Ben shouted at Tori and asked her to apologize. But she said that she was not going to be sorry for a joke. She argued with him when he insisted, and then Ben told her that if she was so against gold diggers in the first place, then she could just pay for her own wedding, and he was not going to spend a dime on any of it anymore. That's when I finally spoke up, and I said that I think that was a good idea. And then and there, it was decided that Ben was not going to be paying for her wedding anymore. After that, there was obviously a lot of yelling and drama. All my friends went home and only the families were left. The argument went on for quite a while. My family, Marcus, Ben, and I, were on one side and Tori and Ellie on the other. There was a lot of crying and shouting, but in the end, I told Tori and Ellie to leave because I was getting quite worked up and this was not good for the baby. So eventually, all of them left and Ben stayed back for a couple of minutes to apologize for everything and said that now if I didn't want to speak to his wife and daughter anymore, he would totally understand. He told me that I don't have to put up an act and be civil to them because this has gotten really out of hand, and I accepted his apology because, honestly, as an old-fashioned man, he was only trying to keep his family together. But clearly, that's not what Ellie and Tori wanted. It's been a few days since then. Marcus and I are not on speaking terms with his family anymore, with the exception of Ben, but Tori and Ellie have been texting him non-stop saying that I've ruined everything, that they don't know what's going to happen with the wedding anymore, and even Ben is not speaking to his wife anymore, and I need to fix this. Marcus is kind of stressed out even though he has made it clear that he doesn't want anything to do with the situation. But I know that he's not feeling good about it, and I feel like a jerk here as well because I did speak up and encourage Ben not to pay for his daughter's wedding, which is what led to all of this. So I defer encouraging my father-in-law to punish my sister-in-law for her mean baby-trapping accusations towards me by declining to pay for her? Edit? Okay. So this is how it was supposed to work. Since a lot of you guys are confused about how he was not going to pay for the wedding, now that we are so close to it and everything is pretty much paid for anyway. So here is the deal. Both Marcus and Tori have their own wedding funds and everything that needed to be paid for in advance. Tori and her fiancé's family covered the expenses already. The rest of the expenses that were going to be covered after the wedding, Ben would take care of that, and he would write Tori a check for whatever she had already spent to reimburse her. That's how they were going about it, to make everything less complicated. But now since all the arrangements have been made, Tori can't even go back on her word and back out of it because she has made several deposits, and they are mostly non-refundable. So if her dad doesn't end up prepping her, she's gonna have to pay for everything herself, and her fiancé and his family are also not that rich. They're pretty much in the same position as my family. In short, they can't afford the wedding that Tori has planned for, and so they are in big trouble right now. Update 1. Thank you so much to everybody who responded to my post. Thank you for all the comments and DMs. I spoke to Marcus about what he was going through, and I asked him if he was upset with me because at the end of the day, I did have a role to play in this. And he reassured me that even though he was upset about everything that was going on with his family, I was the last person that he would be upset with because all I did was stand up for myself, and he was glad that I did so. The fact that I told Ben that I thought it was a good idea for him not to pay for the wedding anymore, it was not something that was completely unfair on my part because after all, Tori and Ellie had constantly been making it out to seem like I was a gold digger, and I was trying to baby trap him. And he told me that he can't even imagine how difficult it must have been for me for all these months to put up with these people and pretend that everything was fine, even though I knew exactly how they felt about me. At least so far, they have had the decency of keeping it private and not bringing it up in front of me or confronting me about it. But the comment that Tori had made at the baby shower was simply unacceptable, and he was glad that I had said something about it. He told me that the only reason he has even been feeling stressed out is because he knows that Tori and Ellie are not going to let this go. He had thought that maybe in the future, we would be able to sort everything out, but given the current circumstances, it seems unlikely to happen. And that's what he's actually stressed out about, that things are not going to be fine by the time his baby is born, and that's upsetting for him. I kind of get where he's coming from. I would not be happy if my family was behaving this way either, and putting myself in his shoes, I realized exactly how difficult all this must have been for him. Until now, I had been giving him space because I thought that that's what he needed. But after speaking to him, I decided to give him a hug, and he ended up breaking down. He just poured his heart out to me. He told me how upset he was and how he was finding it difficult to even bring himself to block the two of them. Because at the end of the day, they were his mom and sister. They were his family, and he wanted them to be part of his baby's life. But he also wanted them to ask me to forgive them and just sort everything out. The problem with that is that Tori and Ellie were adamant that this was all my fault. That Ben wouldn't have done any of this if I hadn't encouraged him to, and he would have just threatened her saying that he wouldn't pay for the wedding, but it would have been a bluff at most. However, thanks to what I said, he decided to go through with his threat. And just like the rest of you, I did ask Marcus why exactly couldn't Tori and Ellie pay for the wedding themselves. Because as far as I was concerned, Tori has a job, and Ellie literally runs a restaurant. But he told me that even if they put together their money and decided to pay for the wedding themselves without asking for any sort of help, it was a matter of ego for them at this point. They wanted to pay for it because he had said that he would, and the two of them couldn't tolerate the fact that he was going back on his word for my sake. So all of this ran a lot deeper than I thought. It was not just about the money, it was about a lot of other things as well. And the whole situation was just very complicated. Actually, it wouldn't need to be that complicated, but Tori and Ellie were making it. Marcus told me that he hadn't been replying to either of them, but they hadn't stopped texting him and trying to make him feel guilty. They think that I should do something to fix the situation, but all of us know that it's their fault. And if anything, they should be the ones apologizing to me right now. And this whole situation is just so frustrating for him that he hasn't been able to focus on anything else for the past few days. I totally get it as well because, honestly, Tori and Ellie are acting crazy right now. I don't understand how they don't even care about what he's going through, and they are going out of their way to put him through this. They are being incredibly selfish, and all they care about is themselves and their own feelings and what they want. It's honestly just ridiculous. Update 2. So it's been a week and a half since the party, and today, I heard from Tori and Ellie after a really long time. I didn't think that they were going to apologize to me at any point in time because, honestly, they seem like people who are going to be too proud for it. But I guess their rationality got the better of their pride because today, I received a call from Ellie in the morning. I hadn't blocked them because I felt that at some point, they might contact me to apologize. And I wanted to keep that avenue open, so in spite of everything, I did not block them. Today, when she called me, I picked up immediately and right off the bat. I told her that if she wanted to argue with me or try to convince me I was wrong, then she had better just hang up already because I was not interested in any of that. Only and only if she wanted to apologize to me, then she should stay on the line. When she did not hang up, I asked her to continue speaking. Ellie and Tori were probably in the same room, and they went on to tell me that they were really sorry about their behavior. They had been petty, and they would understand that this was not the kind of behavior that would be appreciated, especially when I'm at such an advanced stage in my pregnancy and they should be trying to stress me out less. But instead, they had probably doubled with their behavior, and they were really apologetic for it. They had also really hurt Ben and Marcus, and they were very sorry about that as well because that's not what they had intended at all. But now, just because they were being petty, the entire family was a mess, and they couldn't think of anybody else to blame but themselves for it. They told me that they had thought about it long and hard, and they had thought of 1,000,000 ways that they could pin the blame on me, but in reality they knew the truth that it was their own fault. So far it had been their ego that had been holding them back from apologizing to me because they didn't think that I deserve it. But, honestly, there was nothing else that they could bring themselves to at this point because they were ashamed of what had happened. And then they told me that they really hoped that I would find it in me to forgive them and have dinner with them along with Marcus and Ben, and maybe we would all be able to sort out the misunderstandings. I was a bit shocked, so I didn't know what to say at that moment. I told him that I would think about it, but for now, I don't have anything to say to them because a significant amount of time had passed since the incident, and even before that things have not been going exactly well. They had hurt me. They had hurt Marcus and they had really messed things up with Ben. So it was not my place to forgive any of them on their behalf. But I could only speak for myself and I needed some time to think about whether I wanted to get back in touch with them at the moment or not. It would have been less complicated if I was not pregnant, but given my current predicament, I don't want to get into any situations where emotionally I might feel drained or riled up. And the last time that I had spoken to them at the baby shower, it had really taken a lot out of me. So naturally, I did not want to go through that again. And right now, I really just don't want to talk to anybody and put myself in situations where I might find myself getting worked up, which is why I need some time to think about whether I want them in my life or not, whether I want to forgive them or not. I cannot speak for anybody else apart from myself. So I don't know if sorting things out with me is even going to help them out and sorting things out with Marcus and Ben either. Neither can I commit to anything like that. As for dinner with them, I don't know if that's going to work out either, at least for now. After that, they went silent for a couple of minutes, but then they told me that they could understand where I was coming from. And even if I did not agree to forgive them at the moment, it would mean a lot to them if at least I just told Marcus that they had apologized to me. Because until now, they had been getting ignored by him. But a couple of days ago, he had blocked them altogether. And they feel really bad about everything that has happened. So they really want a chance to fix everything, not just with me, but with Marcus and Ben as well. So even if I don't forgive them, it would be a huge favor to them if I got Marcus to talk with them at least just once. I was confused about what to say to them because, honestly, I knew that Marcus wanted everything to get sorted out. But if he had blocked them, then he probably had his own reasons. And I didn't want to meddle with that at the moment, so I told them that I would tell him that they had apologized to me. But whether he wanted to unblock them or not, that was up to him. I was not going to involve myself in that. They seemed a bit disappointed, but then they told me that it was completely fine, and they were thankful that I was doing this for them. They also told me that they were so very sorry about the implication that I was only with Marcus for the money because at this point, it was very clear that I cared for him more than anyone else, probably even more than the two of them had in spite of being his family, because otherwise, I wouldn't even have entertained them. But I did so because I cared about him, and I knew that he wanted his entire family to be happy, which is why I had decided to speak to them and at least bother to talk to them in spite of everything that had gone wrong. I just told them that they were right about that, and it was actually pretty surprising how accurate they were about it. I guess that was the one thing that was common for all of us. We really all loved Marcus and just wanted him to be happy. Anyway, after that, we disconnected the phone call. Update 3. Hey, so it's been a couple of days since the phone call, and I did tell Marcus that his mom and sister had apologized to me. But whether he wanted to unblock them or not, that I left up to him. I did tell him that's what they had asked of me, but I told him that there was no pressure on him. He could unblock them or speak to them whenever he felt ready, and he told me that he still needed some time just to understand how he felt about any of this, and until then, he just needed some peace and quiet. All he wanted to do was spend time with me and the baby, and that's what he's been doing for the past few days. All he does is go to work, and since I'm on maternity leave, I'm at home most of the time. So because I have a lot of time on my hands, I have also been putting in special effort into making sure that we are all happy. I've been making him his favorite food, and the cutest thing is that even when he comes back home, he also brings home stuff that he knows I want and like without even me having to ask him. And whenever he's at home, he speaks through the belly to our baby, and I think it's the cutest thing in the world. So for the past few days, things have been pretty peaceful. We haven't been talking about anybody else. Ben does check up on us occasionally, but even with him, that's it. Today, though, after he came back home from work, he asked me if I would be okay with him speaking to Tori and Ellie, and I told him that I would be completely fine with it because I knew that he wanted to talk to them and sort things out. And at this point of time, I think I would be fine with it as well. A lot of things happened in the past, but now that we are about to start a new chapter of our lives in just a few weeks, I think it's for the best if we decide to let bygones be bygones. And if he decided to forgive his mom's sister, I would be fine with it too. So we talked about it, and then he decided to call Ben. We wanted to speak to Ben first because we wanted his opinion on all of this. He had already resumed talking to his wife and daughter a couple of days ago, but it was not like everything was normal. It was just that there was only so much time that he could spend in the same house as his wife without speaking to her. So at some point, he did have to try talking to her, and they were keeping things civil, but they were not back to how they used to be. As for Tori, she was visiting quite frequently, so he ended up speaking to her as well, but with her also, it was the same thing. So when we asked him for his opinion, he told us that he would be more than glad to have dinner with all of us because he thinks that it would sort out a lot of the awkwardness that everyone was feeling, and this was the perfect time to go ahead and do it. So after speaking to him, we decided to call Ellie and told her that we wanted to speak to her and Tori, and so we would be glad to have them over for dinner this weekend. She agreed immediately and then put Tori on a conference call, and she also didn't have a problem with it. So this weekend, in a couple of days, we're going to have dinner together with his family, and hopefully, we will be able to sort everything out. I know that a lot of people might not be content with the fact that I've decided to give them a chance, but honestly, I think it's important to do that. Each and every person that I know, including myself, has been given a second chance after I have screwed up by somebody or the other. I don't think anybody alive can say that they have never been given a second chance by anyone at all. Even convicts are given second chances at life when they are released. So I think it's important for me to try and mend things, especially because with the baby coming, I don't want to start off on the wrong foot with anyone. I want everything to be peaceful. And I've spoken to my parents about it as well, and they think that I'm doing the right thing. I know I don't have to defend my decision or anything, but I'm just saying it ahead of time because I don't want anybody in the comments being hateful and rude about any of this. Or you can choose to be that way, but it's going to be more of a reflection of how the commenter is and not me. Anyway, all that being said, this makes Marcus happy, and I'm hoping that we will be able to sort things out over dinner so we can start fixing things. And by the time the baby comes, maybe we will all be a normal family. I'm hopeful for it. Update 4. Hey. So I know that I have been missing in action for quite a while. It's been several weeks now, and I have completely forgotten to post here. And I'm really sorry about it, but a lot has happened since then. And I'll start with that dinner. So it went really well, better than I expected, to be honest. Right off the bat, they apologized to me wholeheartedly. And Tori and Ellie told me that they were really sorry about their behavior and themselves were quite ashamed of it because it was really tacky and unwarranted, especially when I had always been nice to them. I was actually quite shocked at how heartfelt their apologies seemed. And at first, I had my misgivings about them, but after the dinner, they really started behaving differently with me. They started coming over more frequently. They started helping me out, and it seemed like they were doing all that they could to get me to forgive them and be normal around them. And after a while, I realized that they were being genuine, and they had even apologized to me a couple of times after the dinner as well. So I guess I finally decided to forgive them. And then last week, I went into labor, and everyone was there. My family, Marcus's family, and when the baby finally came, I think everyone was the happiest that they had been in the longest time. Since then, Marcus, our daughter, and I have had the best time ever. My parents, his parents, and even Tori and her fiancé, have been sending us gifts every other day and have been doing everything that they can to help us out so we can focus our energy on the baby completely. Anyway, that's what's been going on. And I've been busy with my life, so I haven't been able to post. But I guess this is as good an update as any, and I'll get back to my baby now because she's starting to get fussy.